Catus Maximus here, giving you a review and comparison of what I call the top 15 ratchets from AutoZone. They have quite a few more ratchets than these, but these are what I would recommend generally. And in the last few years, they refreshed their ratchets. They came out with some really nice ratchets, such as these, with these nice little levers here. And then they did get a little cheaper when they ended up going with the 72 tooth ones. And I'll show you that here. So this is like the first original series, nice little 1/4 inch. These are really well made. These levers and the anvils are rubber sealed on these original units. You know they're the original units because they have this bottom plate that you would see on high-end professional ratchets telling you to clean and oil them, as well as have the safety goggles symbol on them. When they came out the 72 tooth, they are a finer tooth. They still use a similar, very heavy-duty ratchet mechanism, but they are not as nice. And you can see here, such as the stamping is an outline stamp versus just a standard stamp. And it's not quite as deep. The lever isn't quite as high quality, and they don't have rubber seals under the lever or the anvil. And another difference of the 72 tooth ones is that the screws that hold on the bottom plate go into the ratchet head. So as you service it, if those screws get stripped out or the holes get stripped out, it can ruin the ratchet. You can replace it from AutoZone, but it's still disappointing as compared to the original ones, which screw through the head and into the bottom plate like a proper professional ratchet. Now, they have quite a few sizes. The original 1/4 inch, as you can see, is a normal handle, where the 72 tooth straight handle is actually extended. Then we, of course, have the flex head 1/4 inch versions, which are really nice and are about the same length as the straight extended handle, or the straight handle 1/4 inch, maybe a little bit longer. And they do have nice stiff heads on them, and they do use out or star screws, so you can tighten them up more if they do loosen up on you. Then we have what are known as these compact head ratchets. Here's the 1/4 inch compact head ratchet, and as compared to their standard 1/4 inch, it's quite a bit smaller. A lot of it has to do with down here, and that's where you get the extra space and a little bit extra string as well, or swing, as well as having a little bit smaller diameter head. Another nice aspect of these low profile ones is the switch is flush versus protruding from the standard ratchet, so that can help it get into tighter spaces a little bit. I didn't do this, but they're pretty nice, and you can see it has a fixed pawl design because the switch actually moves when you're operating the ratchet. And the same thing happens on the 72 tooth. And I did want to point that out. Versus these units, which use a moving pawl. Since they're more compact, they're kind of like a ratcheting box wrench, so the lever isn't directly connected to the pawl, but it's still pretty nice. This one is pretty unique in the fact that it's a 3/8 anvil in the 1/4 inch compact head. So versus what they sell as the 3/8 compact head, the super compact 3/8 is much smaller than the normal compact 3/8. And if we compare it to their normal 3/8, the head is magnificently smaller. And so I thought that was a neat idea, and I kind of like that they did that, and I wish they would actually do that for the 1/2 inch version as well. And then here's the 1/2 inch version. And it actually has a really nice ratchet pawl. Another thing I was going to mention, it seems that this one with the blue dot were made just a little, was like the first series, and then the later ones didn't have the blue dot. And it almost seems to me that there's just a little better fit and finish in the ones that have the blue dot, but that could just be me. Let's take a look at this big 1/2 inch. I really like this because it's a long handle and it's a traditional metal handle. I like soft grip tools, but I also like all metal tools because just the way the plastic gets beat up over time. The handle on this is about 18 inches long, so it's a really nice high torque ratchet. And if you're going to buy one 1/2 inch ratchet from AutoZone, it would be this one right here, because you get the torque, you get the flex head, you get a 72 tooth. It's really pretty good all around. And you can see I've re-greased this and all the grease is coming out because it doesn't have any seals. But these are pretty nice, and this ratchet has certainly held up for anything that I've done with it. And don't mind that it's a little more cheaply made, because it'd probably be quite a bit more expensive than it was if it was made like these professional ones. And so here's the 1/2-inch drive one, just like the 1/4-inch. All these early generation ones were really, really nice. Even though they're coarse thread, they're just, or excuse me, only 36 tooth. They're just amazingly strong. And so I wanted to point out this 1/2-inch ratchet. Online, like Hot Rod Magazine bought a bunch of old ratchets and a bunch of random 1/2-inch drive ratchets, and then this very DuraLast, and they tested them until failure, until either the ratchet broke or until the square twisted off. And the DuraLast came out on top at over 800 foot-pounds. And that was really surprising. And when I found that article, is what made me take a closer look at these AutoZone ratchets. We have your usual spot suspects on the 3/8 drive long handle flex heads, straight handles. They didn't have any with a bent handle, and I have a little story at the end of this video about that. These 3/8 ratchets have been really, really nice. I have a friend who has one of these who's just repeatedly used cheater bars on it, pulling off exhaust manifold studs from, off Toyota Tundras that are from the Salt Belt. And really was surprised. I just stood there and, was waiting for the ratchet to fail and laugh at him, and all the bolts came out instead. So I've really seen these with my own eyes really go through some tough, tough conditions. Of course, they do have the straight handle versions as well. And then they have this 3/8 stubby, and the only stubby that they had was this 3/8. I like the 3/8 a lot because it uses the same super heavy duty head on it. The one thing that's a little funky is this shape on the back. I like the rounded back, but this edge right here I wish was more rounded, because sometimes you grab it and it really pinches into your hand. But it's hard to find really compact stubby 3/8 ratchets. And so I definitely recommend this. They come surprisingly in handy. Another nice thing about the short handles, it's really lightweight. So once you get the fastener loosened, you can swing it like this much faster than any other type of long handle ratchet, just because there's more momentum there. Finally, since they didn't have a bent handle, at AutoZone they had a oxygen sensor wrench, which had this handle on it and then a oxygen sensor socket with a tab so it could mount into the fork. I noticed that it was almost, or basically, the same size as the fork on the DuraLast ratchets. So I bought a DuraLast ratchet and just had to do a little bit of sanding on the DuraLast head to get it to fit. It did fit, but it was super tight and wouldn't even swing at all. So just a tiny amount of sanding, and then I was able to get a DuraLast head with a bent handle. So it has a OEM brand handle and DuraLast head. And so it's kind of a bonus that you can, even though they don't have the bent handle, the 30-degree bent handle version, you can custom make one from what they have at AutoZone. And so I would recommend doing that, because it's really nice to have both the straight handle and the bent handle. One really nice aspect about the bent handle is when you're operating in this position here, you can be offset, get around something, but since this is straight, you really deliver the force very well. And you notice that where when you're reaching or when you're torquing on it, how the ratchet doesn't feel like it wants to twist and fall off the fastener quite as easily. As well as when you're working in a straight situation, this kicks up and allows your hand to have some additional clearance. So the general recommendations in the videos would be to, if you're going to buy these ratchets, any of the smaller ones, definitely get the coarse tooth ones that have this style handle on them, because ultimately, even though they do have a fair amount of what is known as back drag, they're really, really strong. If you just want to have a ratchet that you don't have to worry about, and that's sealed, I mean, quite frankly, you can throw this around the mud and the dirt in a service truck, fixing stuff on the side of a road in the rainstorm, in the dirt and mud. These ones will really work out, and they're one of the only ratchets I've ever seen that really uses O-ring seals, truly sealed. Snap-ons and all those are closed head, but they don't use O-rings to seal them. Although I have taken apart some gear wrenches. Flex handles I would definitely recommend. So really it would be that 1/2 inch, that 3/8, and this 1/4 inch would be the 3 ratchets I would definitely get, because you're going to get the most use out of them. And if you run into situations where you need a smaller ratchet, like a little 1/4 inch or a stubby 3/8, then pick those up. But these 3 right here would be the #1 recommendation. Pretty much take care of all your ratcheting and wrenching needs. Anyway, once again, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe. Catus Maximus out.